Welcome to Ask the Compound. I'm your host, Ben Carlson. There are many different definitions of wealthy, rich, well-off, that sort of thing. Everyone has their own number, and the goalposts are always moving. So what's the perfect level of wealth? I have a number I'm going to share with you today. So you don't stress out about money anymore. It's not too much of a chore. You can answer that question and more straight from you, the viewer, on today's show. Please stick around. All right, you ask, we answer, askthecompoundshow@gmail.com. That's our email. On today's show, we're breaking out to new all-time highs for questions. I'm plowing through tons of questions today. Straight from our audience, here's the questions. What's my number? What's the perfect level of wealth that I think, based on my experience working with rich people? A military officer wants to purchase his second home. How should he handle the down payment? How much does it cost to have a pet? I have a lot of thoughts on this one. What if you failed level 2 of the CFA exam? What do you do next? Follow-up, should you get the CFA or CFP for a career in wealth management? When should you make the change from 401k contributions to brokerage contributions? And finally, does it ever make sense to buy a house without the help of a realtor? Remember, if you're in the live chat on YouTube or Twitter, fire away and I'll answer those questions on the fly. Today's show.
Speaking of, Chaseley in the chat just said, are you back from a lunchtime run? Did you do that today? Yeah.
Oh, no, not today.
Okay. You mentioned on Animal Spirits that you go for a run.
But if you go for a run in the middle of the day like this, the shower doesn't take, so you have to take one after the show.
It's true.
Right? It's 90 degrees out. Yeah, it's hot. All right. Today's show is sponsored by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I am of the opinion that the vast majority of households have no idea how much money they spend each month. No idea. Subscriptions, Amazon purchases, everything that goes on a credit card with a tap or a swipe or a click or an insert. Rocket Money can help. They not only track your spending by different categories, travel, utilities, dining out, entertainment, personal care, recurring charges, all that stuff. But they also warn you about upcoming recurring expenses that will be hitting your account so you can plan ahead, right? So if you got a goal that you'd like to save for, Rocket Money can also analyze your accounts and find the best time each month to put extra money aside. Rocket Money will even negotiate lower bills for you. They've done that for me in the past. I like Rocket Money when they tell me about a bill that went up in price, right? Wait a minute, why did this go up? Maybe that's a good reason to cancel certain items and activities, right? Rocket Money has 5 million members that have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, with members saving up to $740 a year when they use all the app's premium features. Cancel those unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/ATC today. That's rocketmoney.com/ATC, or just download the app onto your phone, sign up right there. It's easy.
That's how I catch those sneaky subscriptions when they boost their price on you. Rocket Money tells me.
It's true, right? Yeah, they tell you, because otherwise sometimes you don't even notice. All right. RD in the chat says, I'm going to grant up the hedge of the answer. No, I won't. I'm going to give you an exact number for the perfect level of wealth today. You will see. Duncan, you followed me into Lacoste. Nice. We're bringing the alligators back.
I'm glad you noticed. This is actually, as far as I can remember, this is my first Lacoste shirt I've ever had. I saw a targeted ad for it, and I was like, I like that shirt. I'm buying that shirt.
High quality, right?
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Let's
nice.
do it. See, you're into the fashion too, right?
I
not
guess
just hats.
so.
Let's do it.
All right. Up first today, we got a question from Jeff. I agree with Ben on people making a lot of money but not being happy with what they have. It's a fair point, but it got me thinking about finding the right number. I know it's a moving target, but what do you think the perfect level of wealth is? Is there a number you have in mind for either your clients or yourself?
All right, I have been writing about this a lot lately, talking about it a lot. Let's be honest. If you're asking the question, "Am I rich?" You're probably rich, right? That's. If you're there, you're borderline. You're probably there.
You might not know if you're rich, but you definitely know if you're not rich.
So Daniel, throw up the blog post I did. I just called "I Don't Feel Rich," and I got a ton of feedback on this one from a lot of people, and a lot of people have that same point. And obviously, the point a lot of people have been trying to make is that it's context dependent, and people view wealth on a relative basis, not an absolute basis. And listen, your definition of rich depends on a lot of factors. Your burn rate, and I think the number of wealthy people in your orbit has a lot to do with it too, right? If you think you're doing well off, but you see someone else who's doing better than you, where you live is a big one that people always say, But Jeff here is holding my feet to the fire. Is there an actual perfect amount of wealth? So again, most people in the audience assume I'm going to say, no, there isn't. But actually, I have a concrete answer from working with rich people for 20 plus years. Okay, I've worked with a handful of billionaires over the years, and that might sound like the perfect amount of wealth. I want to be a billionaire, right? But I think most people would have a hard time dealing with that much money. It becomes a huge responsibility, almost a burden to some people, because you almost become your own corporation with that much money, right? People are constantly soliciting you, friends and families and charities and investment opportunities. Hey, just invest in my restaurant here. Put money in my t-shirt company. How about this private equity fund? How about this venture capital fund? And what about this charity? What about that charity? And it becomes a chore and a job almost. Obviously, again, good problem to have if you're in the Trace Comic Club. But being that rich is a full-time job, and it's more stressful than people assume. Obviously, it can it can make your life a lot easier. I think even moving downstream to say 100 million, 50 million, there are still a lot of pain points because you're managing money not just for you, you're managing money for the next generation and possibly 2 generations after you, right? Plus, at that level, you're considering like, wait, should we start a family office? Should we do a foundation maybe? What if we turn 100 into 250? And then we're talking about, wait, we're like a stone's throw away from $1 billion maybe if things break right and these investments work out and the market is okay. And so based on my experience, the responsibilities of wealth start ratcheting up at around 20 to 25 million. Okay? That's when it becomes a little overwhelming where it's like, okay, this is stressful now. This is a thing because it's more money than I'm probably ever going to spend in a lifetime. But it's also a responsibility to do something with it that takes care of me and my family and potentially other people. A few $1 million, call it, I don't know, 1 to 3, 1 to 5. That's a lot of money. But there are still people at that level of wealth who worry about running out of money, even though that's highly unlikely, right? So what's the perfect level of wealth? Duncan, what do you think I'm going to say? I gave you kind of a range now. What am I going to say? What's the number?
7.5 million.
Okay, you're pretty. My unscientific answer, and I've talked to a lot of our advisors who totally agree with me here on working with clients and understanding their stress levels. It's in the $7 to $10 million range. I think that's the perfect level of wealth. It's a range that makes you really rich. You're in the top, I'd say 2 to 3% of households, but it's not at a point where the money feels like a chore and it feels like it's overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh.
7 to 10 million is only the top 2% of households?
Yeah, I think I think that's in the top 2 to 3%. You think it should be higher than that, lower than that? What?
I would have thought it's, like 0.5% or 1%.
I would say that's like half. I mean, this is net worth, so that's everything in a bucket, right? That's
okay, that was my follow-up question, what you were exactly talking about. You're talking about total
a lot of the
net
household
worth.
stuff, they do it. I could break it up by assets, but yeah, this is net worth, so that includes everything. But I would say that $7 to $10 million range is probably like 0.5% of the population, right? Because the 0.1% is... So obviously I'm overgeneralizing here since there are people who are very happy at other wealth levels and people who are probably unhappy in that range because they want more. But that's the number that I've landed on for it's the perfect amount of wealth if you want to not stress about it. It doesn't become an overwhelming amount, but you have enough money where, hey, you're doing amazing and you don't have to worry about money anymore. It's not probably not like private plane money, but when you get to private plane money, then we're talking about more stress again.
So you're telling people when they get to 10 million, they should really just start giving away all the additional to charity.
No,
Just
once you get to
right
10,
there.
then you want to go to 20. And that's the problem. Now, of course, is this a silly thing to argue about? Of course it is. But we have lots of silly conversations about money because it can so badly warp your sense of reality.
Well, it's an aspirational, right? It's an aspirational show.
Is.
Like, this is America. Everyone thinks of themselves as one day, being rich and hoping that they are. So,
what would your number be if you had to pick one? Are you in the same range as me? Do you think that makes sense?
I'd honestly never really thought about this.
Okay.
but yeah, it sounds good to me.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Just working with all these different range of people, that's the one that I've honed in on. That like, okay, this is the group that is the least stressed in terms of like the money doesn't become something that's hanging over them.
For me, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when $1 million was a lot of money. So when I was young, I remember always that was like the goal is like, you get to 1 million, but I know now you have to kind of update that because of inflation. And
I don't think, listen, $1 million is still a lot of money.
Right. Well, we did a poll a while back. It was funny. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we did a poll on the Compound YouTube channel of is $1 million still a lot of money? And the amount of like no's and caveats were kind of hilarious. People being like, well, I mean, are we talking liquid or, I was just like, $1 million sounds like a lot to me. But, yeah.
Someone in the chat says with 398 million, you could acquire all Oatly in a cash transaction. So maybe that's the goal.
That's a worthy goal. I like that. Wait, could I LBO them for like a 50th of that, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Question 2.
Wow, we got a lively chat today. It's almost distracting. Okay. Up next, we got one from Joe. Hey, Compound Team. I'm a 25-year-old military officer stationed in Germany. Next year, I'm moving back to the U.S. and want to purchase home number 2. I used my VA loan to buy a home in Florida in 2022 with a 2.99% rate. Not bad. I paid down the principal $130,000 over 3 years, which I now realize was probably a mistake. I've been playing catch up in equities and currently have $15,000 in my Roth IRA, $25,000 in TSP, that's the thrift savings plan,
Yep.
and $32,000 in a brokerage account. I still have $400,000 worth of a VA loan entitlement left to use, but if I buy a home over that amount, I have to pay 20% down of the balance. So a $500,000 home would equal $20,000 out of pocket. Should I continue to invest in equities for the next year, then tap into a HELOC for that 20% down payment? Or should I save cash?
All right. We love our questions from our active military members, right? Joe, thank you for your service. First of all, 25 years old, and you're worried about being behind. You own a house. You're going for number 2.
Looking at house number 2, yeah.
Yeah. And the way that I read it, Duncan, is this is going to hold on to house number 1 because you think about a HELOC. So this is a rental house, obviously, or one of them is going to be that. Plus, he already has more than $70,000 saved for retirement at age 25. Way, way further ahead of the curve than I was. I was like starting to save then. So if Joe does nothing else but leave that money alone for the next 40 years and it grows at 8% interest per year over that time, it will be worth $1.5 million by age 65, right? Just because he started early. So you're already a compound millionaire and you don't even know it, right? Keep saving, but you're already well on your way in your mid-20s. Plus, yes, there was opportunity costs, and I don't love paying down the 3% mortgage early, obviously. But you're also building equity in your house. So it's not like you were blowing the money. You were building a financial asset still. And now you're thinking about tapping that, and so it gives you some optionality. So it's not like you're blowing the money. So I talked to our resident military expert, Bill Sweet, about this one, and he said, yes, the VA loan, there's like a certain amount you can use. So he's saying that like he's got $400,000 left in his bucket, and Bill was saying that the more you use of them, the more expensive it could get. So it could be that the rate is actually a little high. I think you get a really low rate in your first one and maybe a little higher the next one. I'd say the biggest problem with your idea here of using the HELOC, so pulling money out of the one house you already have in the equity, using it to buy another one, is probably that a HELOC rate is somewhere in the range of 7 to 8% right now. Maybe you can get 5 or 6%. I think that's a pretty good deal if you can find that somewhere. But the HELOC makes sense to me because you're keeping it in the real estate bucket, right? You're taking money from one real estate property, putting it in another. You're keeping it in that. You're not looking to like cash out of your brokerage account or something. So you're using one house to essentially buy another one. That makes a lot of sense to me. As long as I'd say pay that HELOC down in a relatively short period of time, like make that a goal, because that could be, pretty high rate if rates don't fall. Also, if you are buying another property in Florida, I would be looking at putting in some lowball offers. Daniel, let's do a chart on here. This is from Lance Lambert at Resi Club. He pulled some of the areas in Florida: Jacksonville, Tampa, Naples, Cape Coral, Punta Gorda. My grandma used to live in Punta Gorda, getting slaughtered, down almost 20%. So some of these places in Florida, there was just a mass amount of people that moved there, and now people are wanting to move out because insurance is so high, and there was too many people coming, and people decided they didn't want to live in Florida anymore.
You're saying buy the dip.
The Florida real estate market is getting... No, I'm saying if he's going to buy another place in Florida, put a lowball offer in, right? He has the leverage as a buyer. So I would shop around a little bit, and there's people who are going to be getting desperate. I told you I put some Marco Island property into my Zillow when I went down there for spring break, and now they just keep sending me listings all the time, and every one of them is price.
Cut to you doing the show from down there here in 6 months.
Yeah, 10 years when the kids are out of school. So anyway, let us know what you decide. But yeah, you have some leverage if you're buying in Florida. But I think your strategy probably makes sense.
This is a new boil question for someone who's never bought a house. But does it cost you anything to make an offer? It doesn't, right? Like you can make an offer without anything.
Goes in contract, they could accept it, but they have to sign it. They have to.
So the worst thing that can happen is they say no.
Yeah, exactly.
So making a lowball.
Yeah, if you lowball, yeah, they might laugh in your face and say, "No way, I'm never going to take that on." But yeah, you can't hurt, especially in a place where people might be getting desperate and they've been sitting for sale for a while.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Like
Next one. This is a good one.
Okay.
This one, next question reminds you kind of like our dating one from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Up next, we got one from Dan. I need some help. My girlfriend and I have been living together for a few years in an apartment in a big city. She wants a dog. I think it would be too expensive and difficult to have a pet in the city. She's a dog person and doesn't worry about those things and just wants companionship. How do I make the financial case that having a dog will cost us a lot of money in terms of vet bills, and immunizations. So I can put this off for a couple of years when we get married.
All right. This is
You came to the wrong place, Dan.
Yeah. I love this question. Let me start out by saying, Dan, you're probably going to lose this one. Let's just get that out of the way. You cannot bring finances into a feelings fight, right? The feelings almost always win. Having said that, dogs are expensive. Buying a dog itself is usually pricey, depending on where you get it and what kind it is. All the shots from an early age are very expensive. Duncan, how old is your dog now?
We think he's around 9.
Okay, you did it.
We don't really know. He's adopted. We don't really know right off.
So we got a new puppy last September, and the vet bills can be insanely expensive, right? And I'll be honest, my wife and kids really wanted another dog. Our other dog, we put her down at 15 a few years ago, and I didn't want another dog. I remembered what it was like having a puppy for the first time. I always had dogs growing up. We had 3 or 4 dogs. As long as I can remember, we had a dog. But my parents always took care of that stuff, right? The kids never understand. The potty training is a pain, right? In the middle of the night, you take the dog out, and they sniff around, and you think, oh, they're squatting. And then, nope, there's another spot to sniff. That is so infuriating. Like, just go. You need to go now. Please go. I need to go back to bed. You have to take them out all the time. You have to watch them like crazy, right? Because puppies chew everything. We crate trained our dog. The last one we had, our first dog, whined all night until we finally let her sleep in our bed with us. So obviously I loved having her, but it's more work than you think, especially at a young age. I remember my wife and I both called our parents and were like, we didn't realize having a dog was this hard. Oh my gosh, did we make a huge mistake? And of course, when we got the new dog, our kids said, yeah, we'll help out, don't worry. But guess what? Guess who takes the dog for a walk every day? This guy, right? Guess who takes the dog out all the time? This guy. A few months in, we got her in September. She was like getting lethargic and sensitive to the touch on her back. And guess what? She was a puppy. I didn't get pet insurance yet. Like, it's fine. She's a puppy. Nothing will go wrong. They did all these tests. They gave her meds. Nothing worked. Finally, they said, hey, we need an MRI. They talked my wife into it. What could possibly go wrong? $7,000 later. Guess what? The MRI didn't show anything. Hand up. Should have had pet insurance. That one kind of stung a little bit. They gave her some steroids and it cleaned it up. Now, I make all these complaints, but Daniel showed the picture. Betty is my best friend now. Guess what? She will never leave my side because I'm going to take her for walks. And everyone else in the family gets mad. Like, why does the dog only like you? Because I do everything. That's why. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. A dog is the best friend you didn't know you needed.
Oh, yeah. She like won't leave my side. She gets anxiety when I leave the room. The other thing is, though, when you're young, having a dog is expensive. Like if you go away for a vacation or a long weekend and you don't have family or friends around to watch it, if you have to board a dog, that's expensive. So here's the way I would play it, Dan. I don't think you're going to win this one, but when you're young, flexibility is a huge one. So if you're going out all the time, you're going away, you don't want to leave the dog caged up all the time. So here's the case that I would make in your shoes. Honey, let's enjoy the city for a couple more years before we get married. Go to shows, go out with friends, go to dinner all the time, be social. Then once we get married, move to the burbs, buy a house. The first thing we will do is buy a puppy. That'll be better for us, and the dog can have the yard to play in, more room for walks. I think that's a solid future plan that doesn't require you bringing any finances into the equation because the money side of it will make you look like the bad guy. That's how I would play this.
Yeah, I think the leaving and doing stuff is almost more of a factor to me. If you're someone that loves going out and going on weekend trips and going out to the club or to a bar or restaurants every day, then yeah, maybe having a dog right now is not for you because
that's not fair to the dog, right?
Yeah, dogs. I mean, really, you do not want to be leaving a dog alone a lot of the time, and you won't want to. Is the thing, right? That's part of it. You won't want to leave them. So that to me is even more of a factor because if you're living in a big city, you're paying like $22 for a sandwich and $18 for a drink out around places. So to me, the monetary element of it is a weaker argument. To me, the bigger thing to think about is just, do you have family or friends that could watch the dog when you're out of town? Otherwise, it's expensive, but also, it's not as ideal if you're having to board, right? It's just for a lot of reasons.
Someone in the chat says, get a fish tank. That makes more sense to me. Sorry, the city. Yeah, wait till you get a.
I've had bad luck with fish in the past, but yeah.
All right, let's do another one. Good question though, but yeah, you're probably gonna lose. So
yeah, good luck, Dan. If you need dog recs, let us know. So.
There you go.
All right. Question 4: What advice would you give to someone who just missed passing level 2 of the CFA exam?
Try again. Next question. Just kidding.
Oh my God.
I failed level 2 of the exam the first time I took it. I passed level 1 in December, took level 2 6 months later in June. My excuse at the time.
Did you go back in there like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman in recent years?
I should. My excuse at the time was that the exam took place the weekend after my brother's bachelor party and wedding. We did like the same weekend, and I was the best man. But the truth is, that was the hardest test for me. And the day I found out that I failed, another colleague had passed, and I had to tell everyone I work with that I failed because you know when the results are coming. And so that was brutal. I just wanted to crawl under my desk the rest of the day and stay away from everyone. So I did wait a whole other year to retake it. I think they offer it more often now. Back then, it was offered on an annual basis. And I was hearing, as I'm studying again, I'm hearing horror stories of people who passed it like 4 times or took it 4 times and never passed. And I'm thinking, like, if that happens to me, oh my gosh. So I passed it. Then I crushed level 3. Then I crushed a bucket of Coronas at Chili's the night after because I knew I passed it immediately. And then it was finally over. Listen, you already studied all the material. Just do it again. Buy all the study guides. Take as many prep exams as you can, and you'll be fine. We got another CFA question. Let's do it. Let's knock these out.
Okay. Up next, we got, who's this one from? I don't see a name.
Garrett.
Oh, Garrett. Hey, boys. Hope you're doing well. I'm in my last year studying financial econ and looking to get into advising or wealth management. I'm thinking of doing CFA Level 1 a month after I graduate before starting the CFP path. A lot of my 4th year work lines up with CFA content, and I'm still recovering from a neck injury from pro hockey, so I can't work yet. That's a pretty cool not to brag.
All right, not to
pro
brag.
hockey,
Good job.
Yeah. Figured that next year is a good time to focus on exams. Do you think CFA Level 1 is worth it for someone going into advising mainly to better understand markets and explain them to clients? CFP is the goal, but I want that deeper market and econ knowledge, and I have a ton of downtime in my 4th year of uni. Appreciate any thoughts. Where do you think they're based, saying uni?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's very British, right?
Oh, yeah, it must be overseas. To everyone in the chat ripping on me for going to Chili's, listen, when I was younger, I ate at places like Chili's to save money, okay? Good deals there.
Well, and you were an Office fan, right?
That's true. All right, so Michael and I talked about this during our live podcast at the annual Morningstar Conference, so go give that a listen if you haven't yet. We kind of did a deep dive into someone else who had this very similar question. Honestly, I would get the CFP first, especially if you're going into wealth management, even though you just went through the CFA prep. If you want a job as an advisor as a young person, right out of college, a CFP is much better foot in the door than a CFA. Many advisors now just use index funds and ETFs. It might not even have anyone on the investment specialist side of things. So you can always get the CFA later if you really want to, if you find the right organization as a whole on the portfolio management side of the equation. But I would get the CFP. That will give you a better foot in the door for wealth managers. And I think the CFP is more relevant today for people who need financial advice as opposed to investment management. That makes more sense to me. I did the CFA route. But if I was doing it today, I'd get the CFP if I'm looking to join a wealth management firm.
Is that take being influenced a little bit by not passing it the first time?
No, a lot of people
getting some revenge now?
Hey, a lot of people don't. It was hard, and for me at the time, it helped me get a job. But I was looking for portfolio management jobs, though. He's talking about getting a job in wealth management. I didn't move to wealth management until later in my career. Dave asks, which designation will be more aided by having an expertise in AI, CFA or CFP? Probably both, honestly. I think it'll make, CFP it might make you more efficient as an advisor than an investment manager. Actually, it might be CFP. I think it's going to be in concert with one another. I think it's going to help both. All right, let's do another one.
All right. Up next, we got a question from Sunil. My question is, should I keep adding to my 401k? Both of us have a high income. I'm close to mid-60s and have significant savings. About 60% is in a 401k and the rest is in a brokerage account. About 2% is in a Roth IRA. My dilemma is that if I stop 401k contributions, then we go into a higher tax bracket. Pay taxes now or in retirement? And also, kind of a throwback to our first question, I'm just curious to hear your take. What is a high income? You hear people say that all the time. Like, what does that even mean in today's day and age?
Top 10% is $250,000 a year. But people always say, well...
Combined? You're saying household?
Yeah, they always say household, not individual.
Okay.
The stats always break it down by household. But again, that's, well, if I live in New York or San Francisco, that doesn't get me as far as it does in Des Moines, right? So that depends. Mike in the chat says, who the hell needs an advisor to merely buy ETFs? Yikes. Well, that's the thing, Mike. A question like this shows that an advisor isn't just for helping you buy ETFs. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. We've been getting a lot of questions lately, more and more, about people who are slowly but surely transitioning into the retirement phase and trying to figure out how to pull off that soft landing. And it's like the trade-off, right? Taxable, tax-deferred accounts, withdrawal strategies. Obviously, it might be helpful to talk to a tax expert on something like this, but my thinking here is this question boils down to numbers versus flexibility. So a Roth 401k option would obviously be the easy answer, but I'm guessing that's not at the table since it's not mentioned. I like the idea of filling up the taxable side of things as you approach retirement a little more because it gives you more flexibility in terms of where you can pull your money from. Plus, your taxes, as Bill always tells us, will likely go down in retirement when you're living off of investment income as opposed to a job. So unless you're hell-bent on putting as much as you can in that tax-deferred bucket, I think the tax-deferred benefits kind of go down the closer you get to retirement because you're not going to be compounding the money for as long. So I think the taxable account makes more sense, or you could take the regret minimization out and split the difference, half in the 401k and half in the brokerage and not have to make a decision, so you don't have to make a big move either way. I know you could run all sorts of break-evens on these sorts of questions at your age, but it's probably splitting hairs. I think just figure out what you're more comfortable with, or again, talk to a professional who can help quantify your decision. And this is a financial planning question more than anything. So, Mike, the question about an advisor, this is the kind of stuff advisors do. It's helping people make decisions like this, like what are the best uses of my dollars in terms of where I put them for retirement. Good question, Sunil.
Yeah. I mean, the tax bracket thing seems like a big component of this, obviously.
Yeah, right. And again, just close enough where the tax deferral is not going to give you as much of a bang for your buck as it would as when you were younger.
Right.
All right. I got one more.
Okay. We got all kinds of Applebee's and Chili's talk happening in the chat now. Okay.
Are people trying to just put that's your poll. What's better, Chili's or Applebee's? That could be a
good one.
That's got to be like a 50-50 one, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Last but not least, we got a question from Sam. I'm getting ready to buy my first home, and during my prep work, I've already become sick of real estate agents. They seem like pick-me theater kids who got into the business after another career didn't work out. Man,
Jeez.
burn. Does a good agent really save me money in the house buying process? With AI tools able to counsel me on the basics during each step of the process, do I really need an agent? If so, how do I find one?
I've never heard of pick-me theater kids as a burn before. Duncan, do you think this guy hates Oatly too? Jeez.
I was just thinking in New York City, the rental market is so crazy you have to use an agent to just rent a place. And I did not encounter anyone that struck me as a theater kid. They were all very like salesy.
Yeah,
type people.
that's been my experience too as a sales. So I don't know where this is from. But
Yeah.
listen, I had similar sentiments when we bought our first house. I was searching for places on Zillow. We contacted the listing agents ourselves. And it's funny, the first house we looked at, the realtor was super rude to us. And we finally figured it out. I called their office afterwards and was like, what's going on here? The realtor was very rude to us, barely talked, and like kind of walked out. And it's because we didn't have a realtor with us, and they took it as like a slap in the face. I thought it was bizarre, but we finally did sign on with a realtor from another showing who looked at it. We asked her to show us the house. She let us in. She said, look, as the buyer, you don't pay a commission anyway, right? Let me handle setting up all the showings for you. I'll handle the paperwork. I'll handle the negotiations and the back and forth once you put in an offer. And so we used her, and it worked out fine. And so as someone who was initially skeptical, and I had the same feeling, like, why couldn't I just do this myself? I've had really good luck with realtors over the years.
And just to give people an idea of like what roughly are you paying a realtor if you're buying a house?
If you're buying, you're not paying
$1 million.
anything. You're not paying anything.
You don't pay anything.
If you're you're not selling, the seller pays the commission. Now there's some new
because see, just to rent a place in New York City, you're still usually paying a brokerage fee.
Yeah, so as we were coming as renters and we bought, and so they're like, listen, you're not paying any, and there are some places now that you can have the seller and the buyer pay the fees, but I bet the majority of the transactions are still the buyer pays nothing. So if you're just the buyer, what's the harm in having a realtor, right?
I didn't know that. Okay, interesting.
I'd say the biggest thing is that all the realtors in your area know each other. And so when you're going through negotiations, they can talk to each other and have give and take and understand and like have like behind the scene talks. Like, here's what our people are thinking. Now, here's what our people are thinking. Now let's put our heads together and come up with like something that's reasonable. So they know all the give and take that goes on in that process and can help make it a much smoother transition. So it's just, again, no downside. They set up the closing. They handle the paperwork for you. Here's where to sign. Here's where to show up. And once you buy a home, there's a ton of back and forth after the inspection happens, and hey, this showed up here. maybe we should have them take a little bit of money off of it, or maybe we should have them fix it for us. And you want the realtor handling those and not you.
Well, what about
all the time going
incentives,
back and
though?
forth.
It seems like they would be incentivized to make you pay the most possible because they get a commission on that, right?
Yeah.
So
but
the incentive isn't for them to help you get a good deal, right?
no, the funny thing is, though, it's a little different, like, because you figure, like, $10,000 on the price of a house to you is a lot, but for the realtor's commission at a whatever, 3, because they're splitting a commission, call it, they each get 3%, that $10,000 doesn't matter all that much. So for them, it's funny, you wonder if, like, the seller is not incentivized to get the highest price, and so I don't know, it probably comes at a wash. But, and it depends how much you really feel like negotiating with the buyer or the seller for the price. But it just makes your life easier to have an experienced person do that for you. So the question was, how do you find one if you want to? Word of mouth has just been our best strategy. Ask your friends, ask your family members. We found 2 great realtors in our area that came from recommendations from friends. And we've now recommended them to friends because we had such a good experience using them, right? And they made it easier for us. One of them was, they wanted to buy the bar stools we had, and they helped facilitate that and handle it. And so I don't know, it's very easy. I don't think there's any downside. Could you get a bad one that doesn't do much for you? Yeah, I think so. And cut the theater kid some slack. We need more creatives in this world. Now that AI is going to make us all obsolete, right?
True. RD Investing just said, I just watched Duncan get radicalized against realtors. I'm not against realtors. I'm just asking questions. And yeah, to be clear, didn't have great experiences, as a renter in New York City having to work with them. But that's a whole different thing.
New York's on a whole other planet when it comes to stuff like that, I'm sure, right? Yeah. So
they are regional though, right? Like I can't, if we had a viewer who is based in Idaho, they couldn't like help me find a house.
Yeah, you want some of the local area. That's the thing. Okay. The location is the whole thing because they know the areas, they know the stuff to ask. Again, they know the other realtors in the area that they can have back and forth with. It's like, so they know what the clients are thinking on both sides. So I think you just do it. And
so it's not like finding a financial advisor where it doesn't really matter
you're
where
in
they
it for,
are. You need someone who's regional.
Yeah, and it's transactional. You want them to be in your area. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. I think we did 7 questions today and probably 3 more in the chat.
Yeah.
We're
Keep them coming.
Here. All right, Fed Chair Powell gets fired. Is Ben on the short list to replace him? I hope not.
That would be something.
No.
That would be something.
Right.
I would love to see you do Grand Rapids hedges about interest rates.
They should do Grand Rapids hedges because they should say what I would do is I'd pull all the economic forecasts because they don't know anything anyway. They make them up. Email us, askthecompoundshow@gmail.com. Please leave us a very nice 5-star review with a lot of details on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a question or comment on YouTube or Twitter live streams. Thank you to everyone who showed up on the live stream today. Duncan said the chat was jumping.
It was.
See you next time. Thanks,
everyone.